Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a relationship where you knew it was a messed up situation, but it took another person to give you the wake up call that you needed to really leave that situation? So I've actually posted this story before on Instagram, but years ago, I was dating this guy. And when we first started dating, I had no sign or indication that he would have had any money problems. But it turns out, the Tinder swindler was around long before that was ever a Netflix movie. Started dating this guy. Everything was great to begin with. And, he was taking me out places, he was buying gifts, all of that. And then he started asking if he could borrow money. It's like, sure, fine. It's never that much money, $20, maybe 50, whatever. And he would always pay me back right away. It would be something like he would ask to borrow the money on Thursday and he got paid that Friday. So once he got paid Friday, he would give it back. Then it started to be he was asking for more money and it was taking him longer. And then he was still asking for money and he wasn't paying it back. This didn't happen over a long period of time. It happened over the course of like a few months. And eventually, he wanted to introduce me to his mom. So I met his mom, everything was going fine. He steps out of the room, and immediately she sits closer to me and she's like, "Okay, so how much does he owe you? How much?" And I told her. So she pulls out her checkbook. She's actually already written a check to me, has my name on it, everything. The only thing she needed to fill in was the amount. So she filled in the amount that I told her, and she was like, "You need to leave him. You need to dump him." And that's what I did. So the reason why I'm telling you the story is because too often we find ourselves in relationships, yes, friendships too, but especially romantic relationships, where the person that we are with is training us to tolerate more and to accept less. There have been a few videos going around on social media that talk about the boiled frog analogy. And if you are the type of person who is sensitive, I'm going to apologize in advance for this story because it's kind of cruel. But the analogy is this: if you wanted to boil a frog alive, yeah, I know. But if you wanted to boil a frog alive, you would not just put a frog in boiling water. Why not? Because frogs are jumpers. They would have no problem hopping right out of that pan and noping the heck out of there, right? So if you wanted to boil a frog, what you would do is you would put the frog in room temperature water and you would slowly turn up the heat little by little so that each time the water gets warmer, the frog gets used to it until the frog is in a situation where the water is so hot that it's going to kill our poor Kermit. Um, yeah, I know, terrible story. So the point of this is that, you hear people a lot on social media talk about love bombing, but they oftentimes don't give the nuance and the context. This is what that looks like. Sometimes you will be in a relationship with someone and you will think that your discernment is good. You will think, "Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. This person treats me very well. All this inner work that I've been doing on myself is working. I'm attracting the right people finally." And then this person who treated you well to begin with, who was so consistent to begin with, all of a sudden starts treating you like trash. The fact is that it usually is not all of a sudden. This person is usually boiling a frog. They are mistreating you a little bit at a time. So, what does that look like? It looks like dating a man who every single day texts you in the morning to say good morning, checks in on you in the afternoon to see how your day is going, calls you at night to actually talk to you and have conversations. And you get used to this routine. And then all of a sudden, his calls at night go from being an hour long to being 5 minutes, or they become text messages, or you stop getting that midday check in, or you stop getting that morning text. The calls become every other day, every 3 or 4 days. The text messages become less consistent. Sometimes you get a morning text, sometimes you don't. I just had the thought of the Klondike bar commercial. Sorry, squirrel. Uh, but my point is that in the process of doing this, he is training you to get used to him being inconsistent. So it happens slowly, and then you're with this person for a few months, you're with this person for even years, and all of a sudden you're thinking, he used to call me all the time, and now I'm constantly waiting by the phone and he's not calling. What's up with that? What this looks like is a man saying that he wants to go on a date with you, and he gets to the restaurant early. He's there 30 minutes before you are, just waiting, just eager for you to show up and for the two of you to spend time together. And then all of a sudden, all of a sudden, quote unquote, the two of you are going out and he's 5 minutes late. No big deal. It happens. People have trouble finding a parking space. He left the house a little bit late. But then it starts getting to the point where he says that he's going to stop by your house, stop by your apartment, and you cancel your plans and you wait all day and he never shows. He says that he's going to call you, and he says he's going to do it at a specific time. Hey babe, I get off at 7. I'll call you like around 7:30, 8 o'clock when I get home. And you stay up to 11 o'clock to midnight knowing that you need your beauty rest, and he never calls because he's trained you, or is in the process of training you, to get used to him showing up when he feels like it. It's a matter of control, is what that is. Because he is going to train you to be at a point where whenever he does call, whenever he does show up at your house, you're going to be happy just to see him or just to hear from him. It looks like negging. So you meet a man and he is so complimentary when you first meet, right? Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so smart. Never met a woman that's anything like you. And you get used to being complimented all the time. Then all of a sudden, those compliments are backhanded. Things like, babe, you are so beautiful. Can you imagine how much more gorgeous you'd be if you lost like 10 pounds? Can you imagine how much prettier you'd be if, you changed your hair a little bit? And you brush that off like, oh, he just wants to see me do better. He just wants me to improve. He just wants me to be healthier. Nothing wrong with those things, right? And then you get to a point where it goes from negging to downright insulting you, to where he tells you that, there are other girls who are prettier than you. He could do better. You're not that pretty. You're not that special. And in the process of doing all these things, he has taught you and trained you to tolerate that type of talk. Because, of course, if on the first date he had started out insulting you and telling you that you were ugly and stupid, you would have walked. But because this is happening over time, because the frog has been boiled over time, the heat has slowly risen, you get to a point where you get acclimated, you get used to subpar treatment. So when the treatment becomes even more subpar, it's a lot of pars here, but it's par for the course, right? You are at a point where you're so used to being treated less than what you deserve. What's a little bit more mistreatment? Fortunately, there's a way to handle this. And here's how you do that. You keep your boundaries on point. There is no one that you love so much that it is okay for them to disrespect your boundaries. No one, period. Your parents disrespect your boundaries, you say something. Your brothers and sisters disrespect your boundaries, you say something. Your friends disrespect your boundaries, your coworkers disrespect your boundaries, and your man disrespects your boundaries, you say something. And the first sign that someone is mistreating you, that someone is loving you in a way that you don't want to be loved, or they're not loving you, or they show disrespect towards your boundaries, you address it. You don't just brush it off as maybe this person is having a bad day, because maybe this person is having a bad day. That happens. It's fine to forgive people for that, but not without addressing the fact that, hey, I recognize you may be under a lot of stress right now. I recognize that you may be tired, but the way that you talked to me just now, I didn't like it. Um, I would prefer, if we're going to have a conversation about this topic, that you do it with respect. I would prefer, if you're not in a mood to talk to me, if you're not in a position where you can really express your wants and needs and feelings, that we just not talk. I can talk to you tomorrow. That's fine. But the second someone shows you that they're going to start giving you subpar treatment, you need to address it, you need to handle it, and you also need to start preparing to leave if necessary. People make mistakes, people have bad days, but if someone starts consistently showing you that those days are gone, where they actually respected you, where they respected your boundaries, where they were consistent, then you need to leave that relationship. Because if you don't, you become a boiled frog. You become someone who is in a toxic, unhealthy, controlling relationship, and you allow yourself to be mistreated and controlled because you have accepted less. You have decided that you are going to tolerate more. Giving someone a second chance is completely different than putting up with repeated mistreatment. When someone starts acting like that, it's not an accident. They've just been slowly turning up the heat for a very long time, and you're just now noticing it.